You know, Larry, if there were any other job in the world I could hold other than the one I'm in right now, it would be I would like to be the chief scientist at the Applied Physics Lab at Johns Hopkins University.
Sure.
Sadly, tragically, I have no ability to do math, and that knocked me out of the running a long, long time ago. But we're honored to have Dr. Andrew Cheng from the Applied Physics Lab. He's the chief scientist there. They do amazing things over at the Applied Physics Lab at Johns Hopkins. Most notably, he may be the guy that we all turn to one day to save us from planetary annihilation. I'm serious. Dr. Cheng, thanks for joining us. You are a guy who's working on a project to send a satellite, some kind of space device, to a meteor, intercept it, and change its path. After what we saw with DA-14, which came really, really close, and after what we saw, with that meteor that showed up unexpectedly over Russia and exploded, and what we saw in 1908 when 800 square miles of Siberia was flattened by a meteor, this would seem to be sort of an important task.
Well, it always was an important task. I'm almost sad to say that we had to have a meteor impact over Russia to get people's attention, but that's apparently what it took.
Tell me about your plan.
Well, we are studying a NASA spacecraft, and the Europeans are studying a European spacecraft for a joint mission that would do the first test of how you would deflect an asteroid. So the idea is to send a spacecraft to crash into an asteroid and then measure the change we made in its path.
And what kind of, is it just kinetic energy you're talking about here, or would you?
Yeah, it's just kinetic energy. It's sending your football player up, crash into another one to move him into a different path.
But won't there be some parts breaking off of the asteroid that could cause damage that you're not expecting?
Well, we have to find out. That's possible, but until we try it, we won't know what actually happens.
Really, I guess the thing is if you can intercept a meteor far enough out, you don't really have to change its path very much to have a big impact. Isn't that right?
That's the whole idea. That is absolutely correct. We only need to change it enough to make it miss the Earth.
Now, is this something that NASA is involved with? Is this a Defense Department thing? I mean, it sounds like it's something that the military should be worried about.
It is, and there have been discussions at the policy level, and the current policy is that NASA is in charge of learning how to do it, doing the studies, doing the science, and then in the future, of course, the Defense Department, Homeland Defense, a number of the other agencies would actually be responsible for, mitigating the threat, and also for the civil defense in emergency, disaster relief preparations. There are many, many other things NASA won't be in charge of, but NASA is in charge of learning how to deal with the threat.
All right, so give us the worst-case scenario. I mean, we all have read that the dinosaurs were basically wiped out when a big asteroid hit the Earth. What is the worst-case scenario here?
Worst-case scenario is that we discover something coming and it's too late to do anything about it.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat worrying about it? Because we didn't see the one that hit Russia coming. We were watching DA-14 like a hawk. We never saw the one that exploded over Russia the same day.
That's correct. That's because the small asteroid that exploded over Russia was much smaller and darker, and so it escaped everyone's notice.
Yeah. Now. Sorry. Dr. Andy Cheng is our guest. He's the chief scientist of the physics laboratory at Johns Hopkins, and we're talking about his plan to propel a rocket into an asteroid as it passes close to the planet Earth, so we can sort of prepare for potentially a problem with an asteroid. I'm wondering what other scientific benefits that might filter down to the private sector you anticipate. Yeah, I think whenever you scientists and you space folks do stuff like this, it always ends up having residual effects in our private industries.
Yeah, it will certainly change our lives. We'll learn about asteroids, so there's a great science benefit. And also just learning how to dig in asteroids, what happens when you try to blast one. These are useful, this is useful information for future human exploration and also someday economic exploitation. There's a number of companies that have set out to learn how to mine resources on asteroids. So all these things someday we're also helping to prepare for.
How much money do you need to make this thing work?
Well, on the U.S. side, $150 million.
Done.
And on the
Brian will
European
take care of it. Don't worry. Brian Wilson's going to sign a check.
This is. Are you having any trouble getting that money? Because it seems to me, given what we spend money on, spending $150 million on a piece of technology that may one day save mankind is a pretty good investment.
Well, I think so. It's too early to tell yet. Let's hope for the best.
So let's say you get your funding approved, Dr. Cheng. How long would it be between the approval process and when we can actually do our first test on this thing?
The time between the authority to proceed and the launch can be as low as 3 years.
Wow.
Or even 2 sometimes.
Wow. And is this one of those things where there will be a lot of publicity covering it, do you anticipate, or is this one of those sort of top secret things that they don't want people to know about?
Well, I can't imagine why you would want to keep it secret.
Yeah.
And I imagine that people like yourselves will make sure it isn't.
Because you don't want the people on the alien planets to know that we have this technology.
But
obviously.
But let me ask you the real question here. If today you're scanning outer space and you see something coming, and you realize we've got, let's say, 6 months to do something, could we mount some kind of planetary defense at this moment?
Gosh, that's really hard to say. My guess would be no. But, when that kind of thing happens, it'll concentrate your attention, and I have a feeling all kinds of resources might become available, so it's tough to say. Let's hope it doesn't happen.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
Listen, Dr. Andy Cheng, I am so glad that there are people like you who are thinking about things like this.
Yes, and using your special superpowers for good instead of evil.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr.
We always try to do good.
Hey, listen, we appreciate it. And by the way, they really do some amazing things over at the Applied Physics Labs in Johns Hopkins.
This guy's going to save the planet.
I'm excited that he was on our show to talk about it.
Do you think he wears a cape?
I don't know, but I mean he should. And by the way, let's pony up the $150 million, okay? I think we can come up with that. A little money that would maybe one day save the planet. I think we